Hi everyone, thank you for coming tonight. I'm really happy to have Joe Lovano here with me tonight. Hi Joe, how are you?
Hello, Pauline. Thanks for asking, and I've been looking forward to having this chat with you.
Yeah, and I think this time it's working great. So I think we will have the whole time, the whole hour for us, and sure it will go well this time.
Okay, great.
So yeah, people feel free to also ask your question if you have some, and so yeah, I will start with mine. So we may tell, since last time I couldn't really hear your question. I think we'll start again with some of the questions. So yeah, I wanted to start by the beginning, but I think your father put you an alto sax in your hands when you were 6. So it was yeah. I wonder how much of a mentor was it to you when you were growing up.
Well, my dad was, I would say, one of the leading saxophone players on the scene in Cleveland, Ohio, where I grew up. Uh, he grew up in the swing and bebop and modern jazz into the more freer jazz eras and periods in music, and had a great record collection. You know, he heard Charlie Parker live and Lester Young live, and played in jam sessions with Gene Ammons and John Coltrane in the early '50s. And when they would come through playing in Cleveland, and played also with Tad Dameron. And just growing up with him, his passion, and hearing him practice and play and try reeds, and was everything for me. His tone vibrated the room, when you heard him play. And from a very young age, I had instruments, and he first started to show me how to put a reed on the mouthpiece, and with the neck just play and get a tone. And then, of course, when you start to put the horn together, learning the mechanics and the technique, of the 12 tones, uh, was incredible, man. When I first vibrated on a note, uh, it was like such a joyous experience after sitting and listening to him do it. So he was my complete inspiration, still is today. Now, he passed in 1987, and he was in his early 60s. So growing up, going to rehearsals and playing with musicians in his generation taught me everything: the repertoire, and how to play with a rhythm section, and to play for people, you know? So yeah, you mentioned I was 6. I was 5 and 6 years old when I started first playing alto, and uh, in the school orchestras, and then I played the C melody. I was maybe in 6th grade, 10, 11 years old, and I got my first tenor at around 12 when I went to junior high school, right? 7th grade or whatever. And from that time, then I started to really learn about playing songs, you know, and learning the repertoire of the music from records, listening. Listening was the most important thing he taught me, was how to listen to people and to learn and hear what you're listening to, and learn about the different keys you were in on the horn. You know, when he taught me things in the key of A flat, scales and arpeggios and sounds, he taught me songs in the key of A flat, for example. And then when I played in the key of D, it was another experience. So he taught me songs in those keys, and that was also something very important coming up as a young cat, you know. So by the time I'm 14 or 15, I'm learning some things about the music and starting to maybe sit in and play the blues or play something with the cats he was playing with, his players. And they all became my teachers then, you know, the different drummers, piano players, and a lot of B3 organ, a lot of organ groups during the 60s and that time when I was a teenager.
Okay. So then what were your early jazz influences?
Well, you know, from the records, Miles Davis, Charlie Parker, Thelonious Monk, Max Roach, Clifford Brown, Jimmy Smith. No, I'm just thinking of names of records that my dad had, you know. Max Roach, Clifford Brown Band with Sonny Rollins, and also with Harold Land on tenor. Miles's groups with Coltrane, you know. Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie, Tad Dameron's music. Some of the songs that I was learning, my dad was teaching me, were by those composers, by Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie, you know, and Thelonious. So learning some of those songs taught me how to play my instrument better, you know, and taught me a lot about time and feeling the beat and studying rhythm, because the syncopation is so important, you know. And I would say learning from those recordings, you start to channel music and you start to channel the rhythm, and studying those melodies brought me into the world of trying to create melodies inside the harmonies. So that study of jazz, you know, and improvisation, I really got very deep into as in my teenage years, you know. And then I went to Berklee College of Music after high school in 1971, and I had a chance to study with John LaPorta, great saxophone player, clarinet, and Joe Viola, amazing teacher, saxophone. I studied flute with Nick Kayaza, who played in the NBC Orchestra, and with Gary Burton. I was placed in his ensemble when he first started to teach at Berklee. That was 1971. And now today, I hold the Gary Burton Chair in Jazz Performance at Berklee, which my first day was 9/11. So this year is my 20-year anniversary teaching at Berklee and creating a forum of students talking about life and social issues, and creating music from who you are, where you're coming from, you know. It's a very international program, the Global Jazz Institute, with Danilo Perez and John Patitucci and Terry Lynn Carrington. We teach together and address the same forum of students now, you know, and that's been really great, you know. But going to Berklee at that time, the early 70s, I'm like 19 years old, 20 years old. And that's when I met John Scofield and Bill Frisell and Kenny Werner and Billy Pierce, George Garzone. So many cats, man. Joey Barron, and that today we all still play together and do things, and we have throughout the you know years since then, you know. So Berkeley is a very strong, incredible community. And through the different generations, so many cats have come together through meeting and playing music and beginning their relationships, because jazz and music is about relationships. You know, you play together with folks and you teach each other and learn from each other all the time. You know, the most beautiful thing about the music really is the multi-generational, multicultural life that you live in the music. And then, you know, I've been very fortunate to tour and to meet folks, you know, around the world. Folks like Henri Texier and Aldo Romano and Daniel Humer and Francois Janot and Michel Portal, to name a few amazing French musicians that I've had a chance to play a lot with and collaborate with through the years, that have been like a joyous experiences, you know. I call them the kings of France. And to meet you and
Yeah.
in all different generations, you know. You know, I wanted to mention those folks because they're some of the most creative musicians playing this music today.
Yes. And is there some special advice you got from the time you were in Berkeley that really shaped you, or that you still remember, and that really changed your way of playing?
Well, the main thing is to embrace all things,
Hmm.
to not get stuck into trying to play someone else's style. You have to create your own way of playing as you develop as an instrumentalist, as a soloist. So you could be expressive in every situation you're in, no matter what the beat might be, you know, to be driven from your imagination. And that comes from listening to a lot of people, man, and to feel trust, you know, with who you play with, and be able to take a particular piece of music, internalize it, and make it your own, you know, to make it your own. So you could be expressive. And that has been a guiding light for me since my young days, and it's still with me today, you know. And that's why I collaborate and play with a lot of folks all around the world, a lot, you know, through the years, and have documented a lot of music on Blue Note Records and Soul Note, Label Blue in France, and Enja Records, and now most recently on ECM.
Yeah, so we can we'll talk about the last records you released on ECM. So it's Garden of Expression. Can you tell us more about it?
Well, that's with my trio Tapestry as a group. And the Garden of Expression is the most recent release that came out this last year. And before that, Trio Tapestry, the first release, they feature my trio is Marilyn Crispell on piano, who's one of the most beautiful, expressive improvisers in the music, and Carmen Castaldi on drums, who's also like a very creative and spiritual musician, and plays the drums, but doesn't really play the drums. He plays the music, you know, and he plays with a beautiful idea of how to play, you know. So Garden of Expression is the most recent release, and I'm really happy with this group. And we have some touring coming up now in September. We have 5 concerts in Scandinavia and around Europe, and I think we might be playing in France somewhere, but not in Paris. There's a gig in Luxembourg, I know, that finishes the tour around the 20th, I think, of September. You know. Anyway, on this recording, I play one of your mouthpieces on my C soprano on one piece. And I think that piece is called Treasured Moments. And it's an improvisation into some written material that we play and refer to, but the piece itself is a very open piece that we sustain a very particular mood in the moment of now, you know, that kind of, you know. We've played the New Morning, and hopefully we'll be back. We have a week at the Vanguard next May. If some folks are traveling, May 2022, we'll be at the Vanguard, and there'll be some touring around that period also with the trio. Would you like to hear something on my C soprano with your mouthpiece?
Yes, it would be nice. I would like to hear it.
Well, this is also a beautiful instrument that is an old Busher C soprano. So it has a very different kind of quality in its sound, you know. And I find this mouthpiece that you brought for me, I think when we played the New Morning in 2019, which was right before we recorded Garden of Expression.
I think it was just 2 days before. Like, it was crazy.
It was, because we started our tour in Paris at the New Morning, and then we went to Lugano, Switzerland, and played a concert there in the recital hall at the radio, which is where we did the recording the next day. So I found this mouthpiece to be very warm and really versatile. So I could play in many directions on it. But with this particular horn especially, it brought this horn into a new life. I want to thank you for that. Let's see if I can play something.
Thank you. So it's a really big opening. It's like a 10 on soprano, so it's not usual. Like, I think you are the only one that plays so open on the soprano.
Well, you made it for me in the direction that I love. And on the tenor, I play a handmade wooden mouthpiece by Francois Louis that is like a 10-star.
Yeah.
And I've been playing Francois' mouthpieces now really since the mid 80s, and different ones through the years, but they're like more like granadilla wood, ebony, and they also have this openness to them that I feel I could play really pianissimo and triple forte with the same kind of quality of sound, you know. And I'm finding that on your mouthpiece as well, you know. So that's been really fun. And that recording is the only one I've done so far with this instrument and your mouthpiece, but I'm looking forward to doing more things now in the coming recordings that I'm planning.
Yeah. So yeah, you told me just before that you had a new recording coming up too.
We just recorded a group called 3 as 1 with Tyshawn Sori on drums and Bill Frisell and myself. We recorded July 7th at Rudy Van Gelder's studio. Yeah, Rudy Van Gelder's studio here in New York, in Inglewood Cliffs, actually, New Jersey, just outside of New York City. But the famous studio that all of the recordings, really from 1959, 58, 59 to the present day, for Blue Note and a lot of Atlantic records and all of the Impulse records, like all of Coltrane's recordings with his quartet, with McCoy and Jimmy Garrison and Elvin, but with Eric Dolphy and all of those recordings were recording in this room, you know, from Love Supreme and Africa Brass and all of those dates. So when you're in this room, it's like a very spiritual feeling, you know. So it's really great that we recorded in that space, you know. I've recorded there a few times, but this is the first time, like for one of my sessions, you know, that organized as a trio with Tyshawn and Bill, you know. So this is an ECM recording that I'm not sure when the release will be because we just did it. So there has to be a lot of post-production and all. Maybe by the end of the year, I'm not sure. We have a week at the Village Vanguard in February with this group. So hopefully maybe it'll be released before then, you know, we see.
Do you already have a title for it?
Well, the title of the group is 3 as 1.
Yes, but the title of the
I'm not sure because
album?
Tyshawn had a number of compositions of Tyshawn's. He didn't have any titles. They were all untitled number 1, untitled number 2. So we're not sure if we're gonna have a title, like a title track from the recording or not. But we might just call it 3 as 1, you know, with our names, you know. That'll probably be the direction that Manfred is gonna look for, you know. Now he was not at the session, but he's very involved in the whole process, you know. And hopefully we will mix together in these coming months, you know.
So what instruments do you play on these recordings?
You know, on this one I played tenor and the C melody, okay, and my G mezzo soprano. So I play those 3 horns, and the G mezzo was made by Peter Jessen in Copenhagen, and it's a handmade instrument. My serial number is 02, and I got it, and you know, he made it for me back in 2010. I think I picked it up, and it's a beautiful instrument. It's in the key of G, so it's up a fourth from concert, and it's like an alto flute kind of range, or French horn in that sound, that area, in the tonalities, and yeah, I play that on this recording, and the C melody, which I have an old Kahn Chu Berry C melody, with a straight neck, like an alto neck. That plays amazing, beautiful instrument. Which I play.
What
Francois Louis made.
on the
He made me a C melody mouthpiece, which is in between an alto and a tenor mouthpiece.
Yes.
But I play with a tenor reed.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and he put together a really great mouthpiece for me years ago, which is a composite that he put together, some different elements. But that also makes that horn really sing a certain way. That is great.
Okay. Yeah, we have a question from Osnosis. He is wondering if you think that the Syos mouthpiece would work on the regular B flat soprano.
Yes, definitely. And
Yeah.
I have played it here at home, and it works beautiful. Yeah. Because it's really a soprano mouthpiece.
Yeah, actually, it's a soprano mouthpiece. We didn't really make any changes.
Right. And it just the way it fits, and to find the right tuning. I mean, you have to, on this horn especially, you have to have that's why having more open mouthpiece is important, because I could bend tones.
Yeah.
And I could lip up into the pitch, and then also down into some pitches too. So it really works great on this horn. So I've been concentrating on this horn. And lately, playing the G mezzo and this, I haven't played the B flat soprano as much these days. I do, but I haven't focused on it, because these tonalities are real different. And I also play a terrogato, and so that's in B flat, and that's kind of, for me, the instrument that I go to in that soprano range. But the terrogato is a Hungarian folk instrument that comes apart like a clarinet, and you finger it in your left hand like a saxophone fingering, and the right hand is Albert system clarinet. So it's kind of in between these two fingerings, and with the open holes, it has a very wide, beautiful open sound. And on that instrument, I play a Stovatzer, which is a really great terrogato. And there's some folks in Budapest that are working on an instrument actually for me these days, the shop Maikos Instruments, and they're making new terrogatos now. So that's been fun to work on also.
Yeah, we did a mouthpiece for a terrogato a long time ago.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's a French musician he's from Hungary, but he's living in France. He's called Joshko Sefer. And
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, we might have to talk about that, because they're making me this instrument, and we might have to work on a mouthpiece together.
Yeah, it was a great pleasure. Can do that.
Nice, great, okay.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I was wondering, like, with all the album you have done so far, do you have one special that you like the most, or?
Well, it's hard to say. It's hard to say like the most. I would say I have some recordings I'm very proud of. Not only the music, but just putting it together and making it happen. The life force behind creating an idea, or having an idea and creating it. I did a project for Blue Note Records. It was called Rush Hour with Gunther Schuller. And Gunther Schuller did all these orchestrations for me, for woodwinds and for brass and percussion and strings and voice. and which my wife Judy Silvano participated on and sang with the strings, and she sang with the brass and the woodwinds, and he wrote her in the music, like the instrument that she has, that session, Rush Hour, was something that was a big springboard for me from the early 90s on Blue Note, that gave me a lot of direction that I followed through the years since, with different ensembles, with brass and voice and woodwinds and strings. Gunther did orchestrations of Thelonious Monk's Crepuscule with Nelly, which is incredible. It's like from contrabass clarinet to piccolo, and he wrote Thelonious, but with this amazing orchestral sound, we also did Peggy's Blue Skylight of Charles Mingus, with some beautiful swirling sounds with English horn and different things in the sound of in the texture of the orchestration for me to play along with, to play within. He also did Ornette Coleman's Caitlin Gray for like a kind of a Bartok sounding piece with cello and acoustic guitar, bass, drums, and I played soprano saxophone on that, on Caitlin Gray. And each tune has a different kind of sound and environment, He did Duke Ellington's Prelude to a Kiss also. So those 4 tunes were the centerpiece of the recording, and then I composed some things to go along with it. And that record, Rush Hour. Also my Trio Tapestry. Trio Tapestry is my current. There was a recording called Trio Fascination that began my whole trio exploration, The first one was called Sounds of Joy. That was on Enja Records with Ed Blackwell on drums and Anthony Cox on bass. But Trio Fascination for Blue Note from the later 90s was with Dave Holland on bass and Elvin Jones on drums. That session also was a big springboard into many things, man. And you feel that recording in the new Trio Tapestry concepts and approach about improvising, creating music within the music together, So I've had a really beautiful, blessed career recording some music that I composed for the situation, for the musicians that I was playing with, and having a relationship with Bruce Lundvall through the years at Blue Note Records. I had 3 7-record consecutive deals. So I released maybe 25 LPs, not LPs. Some came out on LP, but 25 recording dates that were released on Blue Note, which I'm really proud of, before my relationship now with ECM over the last 3 or 4 years.
So what do you like the most of playing in a trio?
I think the communication with 3 people, no matter what the instrumentation is, I think there's a really beautiful focus and communication when you play as a trio, And in early jazz, there was a lot of very famous trios, like most were piano trios, piano, bass, and drums. But the communication with 3 people, there's a lot going on. And when you really pay attention to each other, things happen, My one release on Blue Note, Trio Fascination Volume 1 was the trios with Dave Holland and Elvin. I followed that up with a volume 2, which I called Flights of Fancy, where I had 4 different trios on the recording. And, at first I was very surprised. Bruce Lundvall, I told him about the idea, and I wasn't sure he was going to agree to it, because it was really something different, but he did. He was very curious. So I had 4 trios. One was with Toots Steelman and Kenny Werner and myself on tenor. And we played and improvised and created some music together that was so special and really very important for me to put together a session and have Toots Steelman play on it with me, man. With Kenny Werner, who I have a relationship with from the early 70s. We recorded a lot together. Played in France a lot through the years, different times. But Kenny and Toots, they were playing a lot of duo at the time. So when I had this idea to do this trio record, man, that was the first trio I wanted to try to document, playing with them. And then another trio had Billy Drews on woodwinds. It was another one of my close colleagues in the music that we met at Berklee in the early 70s also. And Billy is one of the most creative improvisers that I know in my life. And he played woodwinds and Joey Barron on drums. So we did different things. I played different horns, played some C melody on that, and Billy on soprano and clarinet and tenor. And we were switching around different instruments and played trio with Joey. And I wrote compositions for each different group also, One special trio with Dave Douglas on trumpet and Mark Dresser on bass. And we played together. That was also really different. And I played drums on one tune. There's a trio with trumpet, bass, and drums where I've been playing some drums on that session. And the 4th trio was my working trio at the time. Coming from Trio Fascination with Dave and Elvin, my working trio was Cameron Brown on bass and Idris Mohammed on drums. That trio is the kind of the form, the center piece of the 4 different trios. Like we come back the way I put the orchestrations together. We keep coming back to that trio, which is more of a traditional straight ahead trio with bass and drums and saxophone. So that was something that was a springboard now into my trio tapestry, But getting to your question, when you play with 3 focused souls, trying to breathe together and listening and creating music within the music together, there's a lot of room for a lot of magic to happen.
Yes, that's interesting. We have Osmosis saying that everyone loves 52nd Street and Saxophone Summit. So yeah, I wanted to ask you about the Saxophone Summit. So how did it originate? What is the story behind this special band?
Well, I would say somewhere around 1998 or 1999, Dave Liedman and I and Michael Brecker played together. And that was the beginning of the Saxophone Summit, and with a great rhythm section. I think people could see some things on YouTube from the Birdland from our first gig, actually. They had Rufus Reed on bass and Billy Hart on drums and Phil Markowitz on piano. And then Cecil McBee joined the band on bass to do some touring with us. And then that became the rhythm section through the years. But we've really been together since then, And then with Mike's untimely passing, which was in 2007 or 8, 6, somewhere around there. The group took on some different shapes. Chris Potter played with us a little bit, Joshua Redman, and then Ravi Coltrane joined the band, and we recorded a few things with Ravi. The first record, Gathering of Spirits with Mike, though, was the real, that was the band and the essence of the concept about having a band with 3 saxophones and a great rhythm section. It turns into, you have 3 quartets as well as the sextet. So that idea has always been with us, you know. And then Robbie joined the band, and now more recently, Greg Osby has joined us, and we've toured with Greg and put out a recording that came out on Enja like 2 years ago or so, Street Talk with Osby. And that was different because in that group, I just played tenor, Dave only played soprano, and Greg played alto. Mm-hmm. Where the other recordings, I was playing the mezzo and the soprano and the tenor. Liebs was playing tenor also. Ravi was playing soprano and tenor. And wood flutes, we were doing things with flutes and other sounds. And the group with Mike also, I was playing different horns, and so was Liebs, and Mike was playing a caval and some different flute sounds and things, you know. Yeah, so that group is a lot of fun to play with. And the focus originally was to write some music, but also to play in a fashion of collective improvisation inspired by the later period of Coltrane. And that was kind of the foundation of the repertoire. Peace on Earth, Expression, tunes from the Meditation Suite, Coltrane's Meditations. So love and compassion, and those pieces are in the book, in the repertoire of the group, you know. And that gave us a lot to build from in our own compositions within, you know. And the 52nd Street Themes, my nonette, which also formed right around that same time, 1999, was inspired by Tad Dameron and my connection with him, you know, and his music. The orchestrations were put together by Willie Face Smith from Cleveland, alto saxophonist, and very close friends with my dad. They grew up together. And Face was a beautiful, he passed now. He was a beautiful musician, man, and played alto and had played in the flavor of Charlie Parker, you know, in that kind of amazing flowing sound, you know. He was one of Tad Dameron's copyists, okay, when he was coming up. So he knows Tad Dameron's music, incredible. So he worked on the orchestrations with me for that release, and it won a Grammy in 2000. And now since then, we have another release live at the Vanguard on this day, and then a third release that Gunther Schuller, I had him do an orchestration of The Birth of the Cool Suite, 3 tunes from The Birth of the Cool. And that recording was called Streams of Expression on Blue Note. And he did Moon Dreams, Move, and Boplicity in a suite form. And Gunther, also working with him through the years, has just been amazing. But he was a part of the original Birth of the Cool. He played French horn on the original record with Miles, and also conducted Moon Dreams for Gil Evans on that recording session with Miles, So working with him on that suite was amazing. And then I wrote a suite called Streams of Expression to kind of tie things together for that recording. Now, what's so important about the Nanette is the personnel, with Steve Slagle on alto, Ralph LaLama, George Garzone on tenors, Gary Smolian on baritone, Barry Reese on trumpet, Tim Higgins on trumpet, Larry Farrell on trombone, and recently Ed Neumeister has been playing trombone with us. But the original rhythm section with Dennis Irwin on bass, John Hicks on piano, and Louis Nash on drums. They're featured on all of the recordings, And the Nanette still is doing things today. And there's a bunch of things on YouTube that you could go to, live at the Victorious Festival and live from the New Morning. There's a beautiful Live at the New Morning that was filmed, like really great for, I think, the Art Station.
Yeah, Arte, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And John Hicks, that rhythm section on that session, man, when we played the New Morning, so beautiful. Yeah. So, getting back to an earlier question about recordings, I've had a chance to document some ensembles that I live with. They weren't just for the record date. They were ideas and concepts that have been developing through the years and are still moving in those creative directions all the time.
Yeah, so you have played with a lot of people. So is there someone that you haven't already played with and you would like to really share some music?
Well, I like to play with John McLaughlin. I think that would be like a really special, incredible spiritual experience. I'm going to be doing something in the future with Joey DeFrancesco on organ and Louis Nash. We've been talking about a collaboration that might come to fruition next year, in 2022 into 2023. That I think would be a beautiful exploration with organ and Lewis together, and that's that kind of trio sound, Because I grew up playing with a lot of organ players. Dr. Lonnie Smith and Brother Jack McDuff were two of my first gigs, where I toured the States, the Chitlin Circuit, and played around the country with such incredible, beautiful situations with Brother Jack McDuff and Dr. Lonnie Smith. First time I really came to New York to record and to play gigs with those two cats. Yeah, there's a lot of new music today that's happening, and that's why I'm really happy to be doing these things now. Tyshawn Sorey, because he was someone that I wanted to play with before, and I created a situation where he came with Bill, and we played at the SF Jazz, San Francisco.
Yeah.
And we did a concert in 2018, 2019, that included that trio plus my trio Tapestry with Marilyn and Carmen. And then we played as a quintet together. And that idea is something that I'm working on to do a future recording as a quintet with the two different trios.
So Osmosis is saying that playing with Shabaka or Dana Stephens would be a cool hookup. If you're looking for
Dana Stevens, I love Dana Stevens. And he was, it has to be at least 12 years ago, 15 years ago, he was at the Stanford Jazz Workshop, where I was participating with Rufus Reed and Cedar Walton and Billy Higgins, and also Tootie Heath. And Dana's from the West Coast. He was there.
Yeah.
He played some bass too. And
Yeah, true.
yeah, he played in one ensemble, and we played together back then in some of these groups that he was a part of, taking part in the workshop in Stanford, in California. And since then, I've been hearing him around New York, and we played together a handful of times. And he's one of the young voices on the saxophone, man, for me, that has a great feeling and an idea of what he's doing, you know, himself as a musician. I heard him with Kenny Barron's group at the Vanguard maybe 3 years ago. I think I heard him on one of your mouthpieces, actually.
Yeah.
Also. And yeah. Tony Malaby is another tenor player that's on the scene today that I've played with a handful of times. Really enjoy the exchange of the. He's a real beautiful, powerful musician.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering what for you what makes a great saxophone player.
Well, not only the technique, but the feeling in his sound and approach. It has a lot to do with feeling, and not just playing notes, but doing something with your notes. But that's not just saxophone players. That's everybody. You know, trumpet players and guitar players. To do something with your notes, man. To have a personal hookup and connection with your instrument, you know. That's what I speak about and try to encourage more, you know, than just playing and blowing through your horn. You know, to really have a connection with your spiritual expression, how you vibrate on tones, and put things together. You know, not to just focus on patterns, but to try to do something with what you study on your instrument, you know, so that you could develop a personal sound. Because what is sound? Sound is your approach on your instrument, you know, and that's something that I've always been striving for, you know. And then your approach changes when you play with different people. And if you're really free on your instrument, things happen. And, you know, I feel like I play jazz free. And that means like I play jazz, but I'm trying to play with a free approach so I can fit in and play with all kinds of musicians and different generations and different experiences, you know, because we all learn from each other. So I look for that when I listen to folks, you know, whether it's a drummer or a bass player, you know. A lot of drummers play the drums and they play incredible. But now what? You know, I mean,
Yeah. So yeah, we talked about Dana, but who is from the younger generation of saxophone players who has this sound that you describe?
Well, you know, I think everybody is working at it and trying to develop it, you know, a way of playing. Jaleel Shaw, alto, beautiful. He's many directions, and when I play with him and hear him, he's really he's playing with a lot of feeling. You know? I would say Jaleel Shaw, and of course, the folks that I feel really close with. Josh Redman and Chris Potter. You know, uh, folks like that are inspired. That they are inspiring.
Mm.
There's all kinds of up and coming cats who are working at a lot of things, and they have a mixed ideas that they're trying to work out. You know what I mean? But I played like Leo Genovese on piano. He's got a sound and a way of playing, and he's developing an approach that embraces all things. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, just to finish, do you have a special advice you would like to give to saxophone players that are listening to us?
Well, have fun. Try to explore the inner music with whoever you're playing with, so you can play with a clarity and an approach that is egoless. So you can play ideas that are coming from within the music and not just what you practice. To take what you practice and turn it into a flowing expression. So you don't sound like you're practicing while you're playing with other people. And that goes back to how you play alone when you practice. To work on things, get things under your fingertips and in your head and in your body and in your heart. To play things with an only from a technical point of view, you can only go so far, right? You could play it as fast as possible or as loud as you can or as high as you can, but that's it. But now, once you have things under your fingertips, to practice playing and being expressive with what you're working on. During this whole pandemic time, not playing any gigs for people, not playing hardly with any people together. I feel so fortunate with my wife, Judy Silvano, that we could play. We've been playing a lot of duo and doing all kinds of music together on different instruments. And she paints also. So she's been improvising a painting while we've been improvising together, in some forms and structures. And we've done a bunch of live streams through this period, for different festivals around the world and different fundraising events for musicians in California and New York and Brazil. So I've been very fortunate that Judy and I have been able to play together, and breathe together and create some music, So I think everybody during this period, you're having a chance to do a lot of soul searching, and you're playing a lot alone, a lot of unaccompanied playing. I think those are some beautiful moments, man, that you have to really embrace. So I've been working on a lot of ideas and writing out ideas also that some have turned into compositions and tunes, orchestrations, but mainly just to write out some ideas that you're hearing in your head and then working them out, in the different keys and the different rhythmic things, the way you study, I created something during this time that I never really did before, but I was writing tonalities in certain sequences with no stems, no bar lines, just tonalities in a sequence. And playing through that sequence and improvising different rhythmic ideas as I'm moving along, and then starting in the middle and going backwards and taking one 12 tone passage and turning it into all kinds of things. So that's been inspiring, and it's been giving me a lot of ideas for future projects and situations. One of my pieces that I've worked on, really, it started to develop from last March 2020 when everything closed down, and it's called All as One. And that's one of the tunes that we recorded with Tyshawn and Bill the other day. So that one tune so far is going to surface on that recording from this defining moment we've all been living and still going on today.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do you keep yourself together? For me, it's been about listening a lot. I've been listening to all kinds of music from within my library, and listening to some things I haven't heard for years, and other things that I listen to all the time that I hear in a new way. There's a concert Coltrane did that came out from Live at Temple University. It was one of his last gigs, 1966. It's called The Offering, with Pharoah Sanders and Alice Coltrane, Jimmy Garrison, and Rashid Ali. And percussionists and a few cats sit in on alto also. And man, it's like listening to that music and that energy and dynamic way of playing that Coltrane was playing in 1966. I listened to it outside I have a stereo system outside, and I had it on real loud, and you heard it reverberating in the trees. It was incredible. I heard it completely different than if you're listening in your studio or whatever, By listening to it outside and turning it way up, it was a revelation, man. A lot of listening. You have to listen to be inspired by inspired folks. You listen to Sonny Rollins, whatever you put on, you're listening to someone that's inspired to play. And that's inspiring, as an example. God bless Sonny Rollins, man. He's with us, and he's always going to be with us. He's been with us our whole lives. But Wayne Shorter also. Wayne Shorter, man. The library of music that Wayne has documented through the years is so inspiring and incredible that it fuels everything for me. Listening a lot. So that's what I would say to folks.
Thank you very much. Can we have a little part of music just before we leave? Can you play a little bit?
Okay.
Thank you. Do you have a last word you want to share before we leave?
Everybody be well. Take care of yourself and your peoples. Take care of all the peoples around you. You know, that's very important, man. And I look forward to seeing folks when we get back touring and back in some intimate settings with the music. Yeah. And look out for some of those recordings. If you haven't heard some of the things that we spoke on today, go back and try to check some stuff out, you know. And Garden of Expression. And also, there's a new release with my group with Dave Douglas, Sound Prince, called Other Worlds, that was on Greenleaf Records. So, you know, I know everybody's on the internet. You're all looking around and seeing what's happening. Go to the different YouTube channels that you might see some stuff you never saw and hear some things you never heard.
True. Thank you very much for being here. It was it was really inspiring. Thank you so much. And I hope to see you soon when you come to Paris or maybe in the United States. And thank you again. And
there's gonna for folks in Paris, there's gonna be a concert. I'm touring this year with Diane Reeves and Chucho Valdez. And Diane and I are both playing duos with Chucho and then a trio moment within the concert. And we're playing in Paris, I think around November 21st. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, I will write that down. Thank you.
It's going to be 2 nights with Chucho Valdez, and the 20th, 21st, and the 21st is the night that we're playing duet. He's going to have some different groups.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Nice.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we see you soon. Bye-bye.
Yeah, Pauline, thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thank
All right.
you.
See you.
Okay. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.